Life is full of unexpected twists and turns. One moment, everything feels steady, you're managing your routine, tackling your to-do list, and feeling in control. And then something happens, a phone call, a change in weather, or news you weren't prepared for, and suddenly your world feels totally upside down. Today, we're talking about finding strength and resilience during uncontrollable events. These moments remind us how unpredictable life can be and how little control we sometimes have over what happens to us or around us. But here's the thing, while we can't control every curveball life throws us, we can control how we respond. And in this episode, we'll explore why resilience is key to navigating life's toughest moments, how to shift your mindset, and the steps you can take to build a stronger, more adaptable foundation for yourself. This is the Pursue Your Spark podcast, and I am Heike Yates. If you're feeling stuck in midlife, wondering, how did I get here? You're in the right place. We're all about real transformation, not quick fixes. My mission is to help you break free from limiting beliefs and outdated habits using fitness and wellness as tools for change. Each episode offers practical strategies for turning complex challenges into simple, actionable steps. So bring your yes, I can attitude and earbuds, and let's explore how you can truly thrive in midlife. You know, I'm having a really hard time recording this episode for you guys. And you could say, Heike, just don't record something. But I have a really important message that I want to share with you today. But first, why is it really difficult for me today to record the episode? Well, the fires in Los Angeles are raging. It's crazy to watch from a distance what's happening. Everything is in flames, completely engulfed neighborhoods, homes, entire landscapes. It's even from a distance, you feel so connected and also so helpless with the people as they're battling for their lives, as they're trying to find shelter. And everything is turned upside down in just an instant. And you can see how desperate people are. And so many of us are helping and sending money or clothes or volunteer or do whatever we can to help those in need. But moments like these remind us of how unpredictable life can be. One moment, everything feels normal, and the next, the world shifts beneath your feet, whether it's a wildfire, the loss of a loved one, or a life-changing diagnosis. But here's the thing. While we cannot control what happens to us, we can choose how we respond. We'll explore why resilience is the key to navigating life's challenges and how to begin building it into your own life, one step at a time. Life is full of uncertainty and unexpected events, both personal and external, and can totally disrupt our routines. And if somebody is thinking, oh, everything is hunky-dory, we don't have to worry about anything, everything will be smooth sailing, they are really not dealing with reality, because things like this can happen in a heartbeat. Let's imagine you're preparing for a routine day. You're running errands, taking care of your to-do list, and when you receive an unexpected phone call, it's a health update from your doctor, and suddenly what seems like a minor issue becomes something much more serious. Your entire day shifts, and you're feeling lost. You're reeling at the uncertainty of what to do next. What am I going to do? How am I going to deal with this? Who am I going to tell next? And it's normal to feel helpless and vulnerable. Emotions like fear and sadness are valid feelings and emotions. And when my close friend lost her home in the wildfire just in LA, they described the overwhelming sense of helplessness. They felt like they were watching the news. It can't be me. They were safe, but the fear of losing everything, their memories, their routine, was paralyzing. They were stunned. They shared how sadness and frustration would hit them out of nowhere, breaking out in tears, clinging to each other, hugging each other, making it hard to focus on the next smallest task, like how do we get water? Where can we stay next? These are valid emotions. And by accepting these emotions, we're not weak and we're not giving our strength away. It opens the door for getting stronger, more resilience. You know, once I worked with a client who struggled with the guilt of feeling overwhelmed after her kids moved out. She also felt like she wasn't supposed to be upset. After all, this was part of life. But when she allowed herself to acknowledge how sad she felt and admitted how lonely she felt as well, she found a turning point. Accepting those emotions helped her process them and started looking forward to new ways of fulfilling her life with joy. Now, I know these are 3 examples that you would say, oh my God, kids leaving home is not a biggie. The wildfire, all right, I get this. Or the call from the doctor with a life-threatening illness, I get this. But you have to remember, everybody perceives these uncontrollable events differently. Everybody has a different reaction, yet similar reaction to this. And so we can't, or I wouldn't say one is less important than the other. And that's where resilience comes in. But you may say, Heike, what is resilience? What does it even mean? It is the capacity to adapt and recover, not ignoring pain and the feelings that come with that pain, but by navigating through it. And I'm sharing steps later in this episode of how you can start building your resistance. But why is it important to build resistance or learn how to build resistance? Because building strength in the moments of need helps us to stay grounded and calm during chaos or uncontrollable events. You know, let's say you're getting the health call from your doctor, and jumping in place, screaming out loud may be your first response. But then you need to think about, what are my next steps? How am I going to deal with this? What do I need to do? Who do I need to talk to? And this creates an opportunity of growth. Challenges often lead to personal transformation. When you're thinking, like let's use the doctor's call. So when you hear a life-threatening diagnosis from a doctor, you start to think about, once you get through the first set of emotions, you start to think about, what am I going to do? Instead of saying, oh my God, I have this, and what am I going to do now? And feel sorry for yourself, which is okay too. Thinking about what's the next step. How can you transform this challenge or these uncontrollable event to strengthen your foundation? By strengthening your foundation in your life, you're preparing your future for challenging events with confidence. You know you've been through something like this before, and you're learning from this part using the strategies you learned through resilience in the first place. Since this is a midlife podcast, I wanted to relate the idea of resilience to our midlife challenges. And you'll hear a lot of stories because I feel that stories really highlight what we're talking about in this episode about finding strength and resilience during uncontrollable events or chaos. So when you're adapting to transitions like menopause, caregiving roles, or empty nesting, we need to have our resilience and strength base in place. And here's another story. When my friend became the primary caregiver over her aging parents, she struggled with balancing her own needs and responsibilities. And that may sound familiar to you too, that you put yourself last. So she realized that to sustain her role as caregiver, she needed to set boundaries and create moments of self-care, like going for a 10-minute walk or calling a friend like me for support. And these small shifts made caregiving more manageable and allowed her to show up with more energy, patience, and compassion. So she was no longer feeling as burned out as she had when her caregiving duties, let's phrase it that way, started. So she figured out a way of creating a stronger base. And we're maintaining emotional stability during crises. And let's use another example. One of my clients, and I don't name names ever, faced an unexpected health diagnosis that completely derailed her plans. She described the initial feelings of fear and uncertainty, but instead of letting it consume her, she focused on what she could control, like showing up for appointments, following up her treatment plan, and leaning on her support system. This focus on actionable steps, which we're all about at Pursue Your Spark, helped her stay grounded and hopeful. And this was a health crisis. So what do I do next? And this matters because the tools to empower yourself change how you approach these situations with strength and clarity. After the diagnosis, and maybe jumping around, screaming, crying, feeling all these emotions, then it's time to step up and create that resilience. I know so many of us can relate to this. You're fine 1 minute, then suddenly your belly doubles in size. You're bloating and in so much pain, you don't even know what to do. You're wondering, why does this keep happening to me? Or maybe it's the constant gas you're trying to hide, the sluggish heaviness after meals, or those frustrating days when nothing seems to move at all. You've tried cutting out foods, drinking more water, or ignoring it altogether, but the pain is so great and you just want to be done with this. It's draining, it's overwhelming, and you're left thinking, is this how it's going to be now in midlife? That's why I created Belly Bliss, how to combat bloating and digestive issues. The course will help you uncover the foods and habits that might trigger the bloating and the pain it causes. We'll focus on simple strategies without overcomplicating your life, and these strategies will make a difference. So you don't have to keep guessing or putting up with this. Let me help you feel good in your body again, reduce the bloat. Click the link in the show notes to get started today. Now, on my personal front, when my ex-husband was diagnosed with prostate cancer about 4 years ago, which he died of eventually, it was one of the most challenging moments for me and my kids. Nobody in my friend circle or my parents, they're still alive, nobody had died. And that was the closest that hit home when he got sick. And when he first called me, he said, Heike, I have this weird hip pain. Can you give me some stretches or some exercises to help the hip pain? And I said, listen, and I'm not naming names, listen, maybe you should go see a doctor. How long have you had it? And he said, yeah, it's been a while. It's nagging and it's really, really painful. So I said, okay, here's the dealio. You go make a doctor's appointment and I'll give you a couple of stretches and then we'll check in. Well, lo and behold, when he went to the hospital to get his hip checked out, and he was somewhere out on the Eastern Shore, so he went to the next hospital. He didn't have a doctor there. The cancer had spread. It was prostate cancer, had spread to his hips, up to his spine, and he was in deep shit. He couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe it. The kids couldn't believe it. And we all said, well, what happened? So the cancer had metastasized. And long story short, he died because of it. And we were stumped. The kids were champions, taking care of their dad, doing part of the time. But also in the aftermath, there was property that need to be dealt with. And you're listening to this, you gotta have a will. So don't skimp on money. You need a will when somebody dies in your family, so everything gets figured out before that person can't say what they want. But it was hard because I was married for this man for 8 years and we had kids together. And yes, we were divorced, but we're still good friends. So it is important that we feel these feelings, deal with the feelings, let the emotions just run wild, and then reel everything in. Why does this matter? These tools empower you to approach change with clarity and strength. Can you hear? Clarity and strength is something that we keep talking about here a lot with strength and resilience. So each of these examples shows that resilience doesn't mean avoid difficulty or stick your head in the sand. It means facing it with clarity, adapting to the circumstances the best possible way, and taking intentional steps forward instead of feeling stuck and not knowing what to do. And maybe sometimes you will run in the wrong direction. And that's okay too. You'll learn. But these tools allow you to approach midlife challenges in this case, as we're talking about uncontrollable events. Menopause is something you can control very little, with strength and confidence, knowing that you have the ability to handle whatever comes your way. So let's talk about what happens without resilience. If you say, I don't need resilience, I'm fine, I can deal with anything that life throws in my way, even those uncontrollable events you talk about, Heike. But most of us feel stuck or overwhelmed or both. After a major life change, it's so easy to feel stuck. You're like spinning your wheels, but you're not getting anywhere. The days blur together and you figure out the next step. Figuring out the next step feels near impossible. That stuck feeling when you could be taking action. When these responsibilities pile up, work deadlines, caregiving, or managing a household, it can feel like there's no time to breathe. Over time, the constant stress takes its toll, leaving us physically and mentally drained, which means we're increasing stress and burnout, which is not helping the situation. And we face difficulties moving forward or finding a purpose without at least some resilience. It doesn't have to be perfect. You know, if you're facing an unexpected setback that can leave you questioning everything, like with the fires in LA, it's easy to lose sight of your goals and feel like you're just going through the motions without any of that making sense. So does that make sense that we need to build resilience, finding the strength? I think so. You may know or you may not know that all of my courses and classes and everything I teach are based on the S.P.A.R.K framework. The S.P.A.R.K method or framework provides clarity, structure, and actionable focus during uncertainty. So let's start with the S, self-assessment. Why does it help to identify where to direct your energy? Because let's use the case of the call from the doctor. Well, we need to figure out what the next step is. We need to figure out, okay, here's the diagnosis. This is what the doctor told me I should do. Do I have a doctor that I can get referred to? Do I have a support system? What are the next steps that I need to take to move forward with this process, with the surgery, let's say, for instance? So you have basically what I call like your ducks in a row. I got somebody to call. I know who you talk to. I maybe did a Google search so I understand my condition better. I talked to my best friend so I had a good cry, and she maybe had some idea too. Now it's time to go to the P, which is planning your path. Why do we plan the path? We need progress, not perfection, and it keeps us moving forward. So with all the information at hand, you pick the step that seems to be either the most important step or the least hurdle, wherever your preference is. We're not looking for perfection, like I just said, but we want to move forward. We're not just going to sit with our self-assessment information and feel sorry for ourselves. We still may feel sorry for ourselves, but it's time to do something. And that's where we plan our path. So the next step would be the least path of resistance. Do the easiest thing that's on the list of things, or do the one that's the most important, which may be another scam. And then we're taking action, and action builds momentum and confidence. So once you made that first phone call for the next procedure, you're like, okay, I have control. I've taken action. Now what's the next action step that I can tackle without feeling overwhelmed and go crazy over here? And it depends on how urgent the situation is too. Sometimes you may have to speed up that action plan a little bit more, and you get that loving kick in the booty from me. To move forward and not feel stuck and thinking, oh, maybe I just wait till this one is done. It depends on the situation. And then, of course, we have to recognize our obstacles. This step in the awareness process of the S.P.A.R.K, for the S.P.A.R.K method or the S.P.A.R.K framework, is creating awareness helps you to adapt rather than feel defeated. You know that you call this other doctor where you wanted to have the next procedure done, doesn't have an appointment until 3 months out. Okay, so you have an obstacle. How do you deal with this obstacle? Do you try to find somebody else? Or do you book that appointment 3 months from now and then you pick the next item on your list and take action towards that? And the K in our S.P.A.R.K framework stands for keeping momentum. Consistency creates lasting change. And that means as you're following up, and I know it is a pain in the buttski to make all these appointments and to make time for them, and you feel like that's all you're doing, go to the doctor. And I use this just as an example. It could be for anything that is an uncontrollable event in your life. You can apply the S.P.A.R.K method to all of it. Stick to it. Consistency always wins. And I would like you also to listen to episode 96, How to Build Resilience. And this is a multi-guest interview that I had at the time of the coronavirus, and how my friends have been moving forward and doing things maybe differently, or how life has been. I leave a link in the show notes for you to check it out. But I also want to point out, when you're thinking about the S.P.A.R.K method, when you're thinking about resilience and feeling stuck, I'm currently in the process of finishing up my new coming book that hopefully, keep your fingers crossed, will be published in March of 2025. And I'll leave a link in the show notes for you to get your hands on that book too, because it ties in with what I'm talking about. Have you faced a time when you felt like life is overwhelming? What helped you move forward, even in small ways? Acknowledging where you are is the first step towards finding clarity and strength, and your community. I can't emphasize enough how important a community is. And a community, and I said this before, doesn't have to be a huge group of people. It can be 2 people. That's, in my mind, a community too, a best friend, a spouse, a wife, a significant other that helps you, where you can cry on their shoulder, where you can get the hugs in, where you can get those moments where you talk about these things and cry your heart out, and the person hands you tissues and understands where you're coming from. I want you to also reach out to help the California Wildfire and Disaster Relief. I leave a link in the show notes, or any other organization that you know can help those people in California. Life's challenges don't define you, but how you respond does. So think about that. Go listen to this episode again and take one moment today to reflect on how far you've come. Every step, no matter how small, is proof of your resilience. And you are stronger than any storm, and brighter days are always ahead, no matter how devastating some news may be. Also remember, you're not alone. I may be on the other side of the microphone, but I want you to reach out to me if you like. If you have any questions about staying healthy or around healthy habits, staying consistent, creating a fitness routine for your busy midlife, or anything else related to what we feel, what we experience in midlife, send it to me and I'll answer it on the air. A link will be in the show notes where you can leave an audio note or write me a note and I'll respond to you. And before you head out, you definitely don't want to miss our next episode. We're turning up the heat with a candid talk on memoir writing. My guest is the author of The Practical Seductress and How I Learned to Take My Hat and Run. And we're diving headfirst into the double standards around sex with her no-nonsense humor leading the way. Let's just say this isn't your typical memoir jot. It's raw, unfiltered, and might just have you questioning everything you thought you knew. Trust me, you do not want to miss this episode.